In this training video, I will be giving you an introduction to the basics of the administration menu of Integrify. First, I'm going to start off in this category section since it relates to other sections. This is where you will create folders where your forms, processes, and reports will be organized into. You can also create categories within categories for optimal structure. The way that you can create a new category is by clicking on Add Category at the top of your page, and you can give it a name, a parent if you want a category within the category, and then an optional description. You can set roles and permissions for categories by clicking Manage Roles and Permissions, and this will give the ability to have users only see what they need to see. So if you give someone a role and permission to only view a certain category, they only see what they need to see. So if you give a finance group of users the ability to view the finance category, or the HR group to view an HR category, that would help your Integrify instance be more efficient. Now we'll go into the process section of the administration menu. This is where you will be able to add or import processes into those categories that you created. So at the top of the page, you'll see Add Process, Manage Roles and Permissions, and then Show All Categories. Under Add Process, you have the option to add a new process or import an already created one, and you can use our process app templates on our help site. I'm going to create an example for today. I'm going to call it PTO request, and I'm going to give it a category, and you can also give it an optional description and click Save. This is just going to be a basic overview of the processes section, so you can learn more about building processes in another video. But this process builder is a drag and drop environment where you can drag different task types into your process flow. If you wanted to connect two tasks together, you would hover over until you see this pink bar and drag the arrow to connect the two tasks together. The next tab at the top is going to be Tasks. This is going to show you a list view of the tasks that are in your process flow. This is just another way to view it. You can also configure tasks, manage recipients, and manage notifications from this Task tab as well. The next tab is Request Detail Config. This is where you can customize the request detail of a request for this process. Usually, you could just keep it as default, but if you wanted to customize what shows in the Request Detail tab, you can customize that here. The next tab is KPIs. This is where you can create key performance indicators for a process. This will be useful if you wanted to see how long it takes to get from one task to another, or from the beginning of the process to the end. These are very useful, especially if you put them on a dashboard. The next tab is Process Detail. This is where you can change the name of your process, change the publish status, the category, and change the description. There's also many other options here as well, but the main ones that we use are Allow Requests to be Canceled and Visible to Users Starting New Request. We can also allow requests to be copied. There's many different options here that we can change in this Request Detail tab. Under this Process Detail tab, you will also see role memberships where you can give certain process roles to users. Also under the Process Detail tab, you'll see Links and API options. This is where you can find links to start the process by SID, by the process ID, and then you can also find the guest user link. So if you wanted a guest to be able to start this request, this is the link that they would use. You will also see Copy, Export, and Version. This is where you can make a copy, version, or export the process. You'll also see Form Questions. This is going to be a list of the questions that are in the form task that you added. So you can export a CSV or JSON version of this, but this shows you the question label and the client ID of each question in the form. And you also have the option to delete the process from here as well. Run requests can be useful when you're testing and building a process if you want to run the request straight from the process builder. Next, under Forms, you'll see that it looks pretty similar to the Processes section, but we have Add Form, Manage Roles and Permissions, View, and Show All Categories. So we have that the empty categories are hidden by default. To create a new form, you'll click Add Form at the top. You also have the option to create a new one or import one. We'll give this a name, a category, and an optional description, and click Save. And this is where you will be brought to your Form Builder screen. Same with the Process Builder. This is a drag and drop environment where you can drag different task types into a form. A basic overview of the Form Builder is that sections hold these containers, and containers are what hold the question types. So this section here, you can see we can expand and close it by clicking this arrow, and you can also change the section name by clicking the pencil icon by changing the label. There's also other options here when editing a section, but we'll see that now that the section name was changed. We can also edit the container by clicking the pencil icon, and we can also make this multiple columns so we can make it more user-friendly. So if we add in more questions, we can see that they're now in 3 columns. Most question types, the configuration will be similar by going under the pencil icon, where you can change the label, the client ID, the class, the width. You can make the questions disabled, read-only, or hidden. And then under the validation tab is where you would make a question required. The next tab is rules. This will allow you to add rules that define certain behaviors for questions or sections in your form that are based on responses that you've defined. For instance, making certain fields or sections show or hide based on user input. The next tab is where you can use JavaScript to customize your form. CSS will also allow you to customize the style of your form. And then this preview tab is where you can jump to from your form builder to view what the form would look like to the end user. This detail tab is similar to the process detail tab, where you can see that there is an option for role memberships, deleting the form, copying it, version. You can also view the questions in a list view here, and you can also export the form. This is also where you could change the name, the category, or the description of the form as well. You can also save the form and save it as a template. Next, you can see that the References tab will show you any process for this form is included. So you can see this process, the PTO request form, is included in 2 PTO request processes. Again, this is just an example, but it's showing you where the form task is included in any process. So if you're going to make changes to the form, you may want to consider that this could be involved in different processes. So this helps by using the References tab. The next option is reports. Same thing, you'll see the categories, add report, manage roles and permissions, and show all categories. You'll be able to create a new or import already created report. We have a whole video on how to create reports, so you can check that out on our help site. The next option is users. This is where you're going to be able to add, deactivate, or replace users in your Integrify instance. You can edit a user's profile by clicking on the pencil icon. This can allow you to change their name, their email, time zone. You can update the user's password for them. Address, we have custom fields as well, which can drive certain fields and processes. We also have some organizational details, and you can also set a user's delegation here. The columns are pretty self-explanatory. We have last name, first name, username, email, when the user was created, when the user's profile was last updated, the user's last login, and the last column is active or inactive users. The X shows that they are inactive, and the green check mark shows that they are active. You can also deactivate and activate users by clicking on the button here, the check mark or the X, to change it. Or you can bulk activate or deactivate users by using these checkboxes and buttons here. The next option is groups. This is where you can create different groups of users to maximize your efficiency in assignments. So if you want to have an HR group or certain finance group, this would be very helpful to assign these users to certain tasks within the process. You can click Add Group to create a new group of users. Once you've created the group, you can click this Manage Members icon, and this is where you can add and remove certain users from the group. So if I wanted to add a user to the group, I would click this plus button, and you can see that they're now at the bottom of the screen, which showing that they're in the group. If you wanted to remove someone from a group, you could click this minus to remove the user. You can also give certain roles and permissions to groups here as well under Manage Roles and Permissions. We went through the category section, so now I'll move on to Process Scheduler. This is where you can schedule a process to run on a certain frequency and on certain dates. So this will show you certain details on the scheduled processes. To schedule a process, you can give it a name. You could choose which process you would like to run, what the frequency would be. You could set it to scheduled or inactive, and then you could also run it as a certain user. You could set the schedule on the day and time and on a recurring or at specific time, and then you could choose a deactivated time as well. The only thing that you need to note here is that the times are in GMT, so you may need to account for that time change by putting it into GMT. Same thing with the report scheduler. You can schedule certain reports to run on a certain frequency, very similarly here. That was a basic introduction of the administration menu of Integrify. Always feel free to reach out to your customer success team if you need any assistance or have any questions.